Okay, we are here in Cork, and I'm happy to be in the company of the Irish poet Billy Ramsell, whose book The Architect's Winter Dream was translated into Italian by Lorenzo Mari, Il sogno d'inverno dell'architetto, edizione L'Arcolaio, if I remember well, right? Am I correct in everything? Okay, that's great. So, and Billy was so nice to meet me here in Cork to actually talk about his book and his approach to poetry and literature.
Yeah.
And so first of all, Billy, I was really glad to notice how many things we have in common. We previously discussed a little bit about them while we were in the restaurant. So music, sports, and the theme of an interaction between man and machine.
Correct.
Would you like
All
to
those
tell?
things interest me. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to tell us something about these matters?
Yeah. Well, let's start with music. I guess that so you, as a writer, someone who tries to write good poetry, you can learn so much from music because you're aiming for something within the lines that goes beyond meaning, goes beyond the direct meaning of the words, something that operates on the level of sound. So, you know that old adage like that all art aspires to the condition of music. There is some truth in that for me. So you're trying to aim for that space, to inhabit that space where the lines are not only about what they mean or what they say directly, but about the feelings or emotions they inspire through the sound of those words.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about sports? That's another passion that you have.
I like sports a lot. I like pretty much every sport except for motorsport.
Yeah.
I can't really get into that.
Yeah.
Despite my best efforts.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against it.
No, absolutely.
But I've never become too invested in it, shall we say. My favourite sport of all is a sport called hurling, which is a sport played in Ireland. And to describe it, I guess you could say there's elements of soccer, there's elements of hockey, because it's a game played with balls and sticks, and there's elements of rugby, perhaps because it's quite a physically confrontational sport, but not as aggressive as rugby. But it's in the same area. So there's elements of all those three sports in it, and that's a sport that is very popular here in Cork, Cork City and Cork County. And we've not been as successful in recent years as we were in the past, but we're still a hurling. Fanatical hurling city.
Absolutely. Actually, there is a poem that is dedicated to a famous hurling player in Iran.
Correct.
Yeah.
That player is Christy Ring, and by common consent, he was the greatest hurler of all time. And he won 8 All-Ireland titles, a feat that was only recently surpassed by another great hurler, Henry Shevlin, who won 10. But Christy Ring, my poem concerns his death, and he died quite young. He was 56, I think, and he died here on the streets of Cork City, and it was a heart attack, and he collapsed not far away from here, down on one of the main streets, and it was a very tragic passing, a very sudden passing, because he was still contributing to the sport at that time as like a coach and a mentor, to Cork hurling, and they still say that was probably the biggest funeral ever in Cork.
Incredible.
Well, since 1916, or since the War of Independence or the revolution against English rule in Ireland, probably since then it would have been the biggest.
I know the feeling, because I'm a supporter of a big fan of Fiorentina, the team of Florence, and our captain died in January, all of a sudden during his sleep. So there was
I heard about that.
A story. There was a funeral with a huge crowd in Piazza Santa Croce, one of the main squares of Florence, and everybody was touched. Really literally people moved to tears on the streets. So I know the feeling, and I think this is a great example of how poetry is not something that lives, in heavens, but mixed with life, with with the concreteness of life, and so actually also the third thing that you that we have in common, because I'm a member of Connectivism, and we love this theme of the interaction between man and machine.
Yeah.
That's one. I think I would say that the pillar of your collection of poems. Also in the title, you refer to substantially an IT engineer. That's
pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much. So, would you like to tell us more about this idea?
I'd be delighted. So, this was a concept or an idea that obsessed me for those years, though I don't think about it quite as much now anymore. But so, okay, let me put it like this: there's two strands to it. From where I'm sitting, there's the good and the bad, right? So I'll do the bad first. So there was a time when people knew where they were going, right? Because you knew the directions to your nan's house or your cousin's house. No, nobody knows where they're going because they're relying on the machine to tell them turn left, turn right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go 500 meters, whatever, along the road. There was a time when people remembered phone numbers and birthdays and just information about other people in their lives. Now all of that is, we've kind of decided not to do that anymore, and we let machines do the remembering for us, so to speak. There was a time when people were interested in what was going on around them. Now everybody is just looking at a phone all the time, literally walking down the street, walking into the traffic. There was a time when we lived in where the light was red. Right, so you got these candles here. This is the red light, spectrum, or a fire, in a hearth, or even in the old caveman days, right?
Sure.
You had the fires, and you sat in front of them, and people conversed, and they sang songs, and the red light is natural. It puts you to sleep. It calms you, But now we live in the realm of the blue light, which emanates from all the screens. And you walk into any pub, any bar, any cafe. There's a big fucking stupid TV on all the time, right? And that blue light is addictive. You can't stop looking at it, but it agitates you. It doesn't. Yeah. It's a different end of the spectrum, of the electromagnetic spectrum or whatever. And now we live in the realm of the blue light, and that makes me very depressed at times, because people aren't tuned into what's going on around them anymore.
Absolutely.
And conversation even is a dying art. Now, that sounds very negative, but you know what I mean. These are great changes that are happening, and they're kind of disturbing and upsetting in some ways. That's the bad side.
Yeah. Well, so we could say that. Technology has, in a way, taught us a different tempo, tempo of living. So even this can be reflected into poetry, in a different approach to poetry, which doesn't mean that your poetry is purely experimental, because I feel it as a very classical approach combined with the new trends or whatever you want to call them, because you can actually perceive the great tradition of Irish poetry. I'm thinking, for instance, of William Butler Yeats, and also the fact that you actually speak Gaelic, and that is also present also through some quotations in your poems,
correct.
Right?
Yeah. So I try to do different things, right? Yeah. Because it's very, very boring if you do the same thing all the time. So I did some that were in rhyme, and of course that's very difficult to translate. And I mean, Lorenzo, that was a real challenge for him, I think. But to render those rhymes into Italian, or to not do it, or to deal with that difficulty that was presented to the translator. So you might call that a more traditional form. Yeah. And then I tried to do some things that were, as you mentioned, a bit more experimental or modernist, for want of a better word. And then I tried to do some things that were like prose, or you might say more kind of gimmicky or gamesmanship, but why not, Yeah. Why not have that variety? Because a lot of poets do, but many poets don't. They're just going to say, I am going to commit to this one thing. And they feel, I'm a modernist poet, so I can't write a poem in rhymes, or I'm a traditional poet, so I must write everything in a formal way. But for me, that doesn't really interest me, that level of singularity. I like to just try to drift around and like a cat, moving from one street to the next under cover of darkness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also felt, as I told you before, I think that in your poems there is you can perceive the breath of nature. I think somehow intertwined with these technological or post-technological energetic halos. I think it's what actually remains when we stop thinking about technology. That is the human dimension of your poetry that is actually very much present in your verses. So, well, I think they sort of rotate around the human soul, although this is somehow polluted or interfered with by the electromagnetic waves that fill the space we live in.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I think that's all very true. And the way, like, perhaps it's only when we step back from the technology and the machines, you know, that you start to feel a bit more of that soul, you know. Like, I was on holidays there with my wife and my child for a week down in West Cork, and in a house, and there was no internet, no Wi-Fi or no internet connection, and barely any phone coverage. And so we really stepped back. We were forced to step back and unplug from the type of things we're talking about, you know. And so therefore, it's a more soulful time, like when you're not.
Absolutely.
Because it's a distraction.
Yeah.
You're free from distraction, and you can. You're free from choice.
Yeah.
You're free from looking at a million different windows, and you just notice things like natural things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess there's an old conflict between nature and technology there that is unavoidable, and I can touch on that, I guess.
That's great. That's great. I totally agree. And once more, I would like to, as you just did, to emphasize the excellent work that Lorenzo Mari did when translating your poems into Italian, because the Italian texts respect and reflect very much the intentions and the feelings that can be perceived when reading the English version. So it was a great work that, as a translator myself, I can witness, I can underline, because it deserves to be appreciated.
Here, he's a great man. He did great work.
I hope to meet him soon, because we've just known each other online, as I told you before. So see you next time, Lorenzo.
And his partner Beatrice as well. She's a great woman.
Oh,
she did the cover. It was one of her photos.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
great.
I
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Taken in a town, I think, quite near Bologna, but I can't remember the name of the town now.
Okay. I will ask him.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Is there maybe I was wondering if you would like to read something for us, whatever you find on this e-reader.
Because I can't even read this.
You just touch here and to change the page, and
I tell you now, touch here, change the page, is it?
Yeah, it should.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. This is more of it now, the technology.
Yeah, you see, you can see how nothing is certain when it comes to technology. No, it's stuck now. No, it now works. For instance, now we have these, because there was a point that I particularly liked, but I don't want to take too much of your time to find it. But here we have actually Lament for Christy Ring. And
it's very long. Let's read a small bit of it.
Yeah, okay.
How do I make it bigger?
Yeah, let's enlarge it a little bit.
But I know it. Aboriginal, electrical, his great bulging eye. Amid the stadium's temper, amid the furies and exultations of the great coated stands, as he lopes in the bull's diagonal goalward. Improbable balance of ball and broad boss on a stick of ashy liquidity that's rippling, eel-flexible, alive. And now his body, it is liquid too, an impressionist version of itself, as he slides the wall of tree defenders, pours himself through some improbable gap, and on the other side re-solidifies. Is it only in his own mind the nearly underwater silence for his backswing, for his shape's familiar coil into potential, for the glance, the pull, and the connection, and the cork-hearted ball becomes nothing at all, is too nimble, too cute for the eye, and the goalkeeper's beaten, and Clare and Tipperary and Kilkenny are beaten, and the terraces inhale themselves, and the air is vibrating in shock and in awe.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, thank you, Billy.
Thank you
for this interview.
Giovanni.
And till next time, when we meet in Italy, okay?
Absolutely.
Florence. Okay.
Grazie.
Bye bye.